This is What If Deku Had All for One. Here we go. Izuku Midoriya and his mother go to the quirk doctor to see what his quirk is. And the doctors break the news that he does have a quirk, but they do not know. Oh, and he still has to wear quirkless shoes. And it's because 1 out of 1 billion in quirked individuals have the toe joint. Mostly first to second generation people. That's important. But anyway, we fast forward to middle school where the teacher says, I have the hiring forms right here, but I presume all of you want to be heroes. And the entire class uses their quirk besides Izuku and Bakugo. Bakugo says, hey, teach, don't lump me up with the rest of these losers. I'm the only one going to getting anywhere in life. And everyone starts booing him. And the teacher says, well, you applied to UA. And also Izuku. Everyone in the class looks at Izuku and laughs because most people believe he is quirkless because they have not discovered his quirk. He has not discovered his quirk yet. And Izuku says, I can still get in. And they have eliminated that rule. And Bakugo says, you Deku, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to die in the exams. Then the day goes by, and I, outside of character, am not going to voice what he says. Bakugo says. But he does say the suicide line. But I am not going to say that. Anyway, Izuku goes under the underpass and right behind him, and one character detail I have to say is that Izuku has greenish white hair. And the sludge villain says, "Oh, good, and a new vessel." And when the sludge villain attacks Izuku Midoriya, this is where Izuku's quirk starts. And 1 minute, the sludge villain is trying to choke him. The next minute, the villain drops down and says, What the bleep? What the hell? What did you do to me? And Izuku says, what did I do? Ooh. And his arm turns to sludge. And he closes his fist, and it turns back to normal. And the formerly sludge villain says, oh, fudge. Oh, fuck. Oh, goodness. Yes. Great. I'm gonna be dead. Well, hopefully I reach prison before he kills me. Izuku says, what do you mean? All Might pops out of the manhole cover and says, I'm here, and wait. And the sludge villain attempts to run, but he gets captured. And Izuku says to All Might, kid, did you know where a villain with a sludged quirk is? Oh, he's there. Ah, okay, makes sense. And Izuku, not even realizing it, taps the villain again, and basically the villain gets his quirk back. And Izuku says, "Could you sign my autograph? Sign an autograph?" And All Might basically says, "Sure." And he grabs his phone and says, "Do you need medical assistance?" Since no, All Might. Okay. And All Might leaves with the villain, because he's now in a sludge form, and All Might had to put him in a bottle. And then, a few minutes later, Izuku hears on the way home explosions. And he runs to it and sees the fact that he doesn't know how, but the sludge villain, he doesn't know what happened earlier. What happened earlier, but the sludge villain is attacking Bakugo Katsuki. And Izuku does the same thing in canon and runs to help Bakugo. But this time, the sludge villain sees the kid and says, "Nope," and basically bolts in the other direction, right into Mount Lady's hands, and basically, the sludge villain is captured. And in this timeline, All Might didn't notice that he dropped the bottle until he was too late. Outside of character, that is how All Might and Izuku do not know each other. They're really. Anyway, Izuku Midoriya goes to his mother and says, "I have a quirk. Apparently I can take and give quirks." Inko says, "Huh, exactly how your father's does. I thought my father's quirk was fire breath." It is, and isn't. Let's sit down. Inko and Izuku sit down, and Inko says, "Your father's quirk is the same as yours, and to be honest, this has been around longer than really anyone else. And Hisashi, she has a quirk that he calls All for One. But I don't think, unless you want to call it that, you don't need to." Izuku says, "I want to call my quirk that." And Izuku, cool. One thing is, and you cannot tell anyone this, your dad has done bad things over the years, but he is still a good man. And Izuku doesn't understand what she means, but she says, "You'll understand and when you know who he is." And that is the end of the video. P.S. I understand I did semi-change the story, but honestly, it's a good change in a few ways. Anyway, hope you like this video, and goodbye. Here we go. Oh, this is What If Deku Had All For One Part 2. Izuku says, Mom, do you think I can be a hero with this quirk? And his mother says, "Of course, honey. I know I haven't been very supportive of your dreams, but I'm just don't want you getting hurt. But I'm going to try my best to help you become a hero. Even if it's going to scare the ever-living life out of me. But anyway, I have a plan to help you get quirks. Izuku says, how? Simple. First, we are going to get your quirk classified by registering it, then get you a quirk license, then basically go to people that want to get rid of their quirks or are willing to get rid of them. M for a price or for free. I'm going to fill out this paperwork and I'm going to find places that are willing to give you a quirk. About a month later, he has 3 quirks. She found 3 different places that are willing to give a quirk. One was a jail that was transferring his prisoner to Tartarus, and the villain name was Juggernaut, a cousin of Muscular, where his quirk was called Strong Body, where basically his entire body had when the quirk was activated, it had the strength 10 times of the original strength. Meaning, if you could originally carry 100 pounds, you can live 400. And Juggernaut was capable of flat out destroying cars with his hands. So, yeah. Second was a woman that was in a hospital on her deathbed. Her name was Tanjisi Mikimo. And her quirk was temperature manipulation, where she could handle very high or very low temperatures pretty well. And the third quirk is called adaptability, where basically the more you take in as damage, the more you can adapt to it. This was a pro hero called Adapto that is currently too far gone on to be saved, and the family members were willing to help Izuku who get the quirk, and Adapto allowed his quirk to be taken willingly. So Izuku has 3 quirks at the moment. He's been training them. Strong Body, for example, he's been training that by going to the local beach that was completely trashed. Beach, and he basically was training by lifting garbage and saying to himself, "This scratches 2 things off my bucket list: getting stronger to use my quirk and to try to get into the hero force, and doing some community service." And basically, Izuku does this for a decent while, and his mother says, Izuku? And Izuku says, "Yes, Mom?" She says, "Well, I believe I can get you a 4th quirk. Do you think you could handle it?" And he says, "I don't think I have a limit on how many quirks I can handle. Oh, it's just the fact that when I use multiple at once, it takes more time and it takes more stamina out of me than it does only one, but I think I can train that away." And she says, Well, don't overwork yourself. This quirk is from a villain named Tooth Rider, where basically they had the capability of metal manipulation to a certain degree, where they could control, well, about 50 kilograms of metal at a time. And this villain is a B-class villain, and the Masutafu Police Department wants him to get this villain's quirk, so he's not as much as a problem. And Izuku says, "Sure, I can do that." After he gets the quirk, metal manipulation, and it's pretty much what it is. He can control nearly any metal. That is not way more than 50 kilograms. And he trains with each quirk for a good 4 months, and is now capable of lifting 400 pounds with his strong body quirk, and is capable of taking a decent amount of damage with his adaptability, and basically tends to use both in sync, so he can get the benefits of adaptability and strong body together. And does try to increase the limit of matter manipulation. Then he sees he's a older man that has yellow hair, bluish eyes, and looks like he hasn't eaten in over Izuku's lifespan. And Izuku says, "Are you okay, sir?" And he says, "Oh, I'm fine. Are you the one cleaning this beach?" And Izuku says, "Yes, I am." And he says, "That's pretty remarkable. How many people nowadays sees the value in doing community service?" Izuku says, "Thank you. And All Might says in his head, "Should I ask him to be it?" And All Might says, "Nah. I have Mirio. Mirio's a good candidate, and I don't know much about this kid." And Toshinori says, "Have a wonderful day, kid." And Izuku says, Have a wonderful day, sir." And Izuku does it, what he was doing, and by month 5, cleans 95% of the beach, and is using most of the metal scraps to basically help increase his limit on how much he can carry with his metal manipulation quirk. He can lift about 100 kilograms of metal, and can lift with his strength, his body enhancement quirk, about 500 pounds, and is capable of taking with his adaptability a decent amount of damage, because he's basically having improvised tennis ball machine hit him in the chest. That's a lot. So yeah, he does that and thinks to himself, what am I missing for my training? I'm doing 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, and 100 planks a day, 100 second planks a day. So what am I missing? maybe I should be getting buckets of sand and carrying that. And for the next while, he does that. And he meets an individual with purple hair heading to the beach, and sees these people with different uniforms looking like they're chasing after the purple-haired kid. And the purple-haired kid, it runs to the beach, and those 4 kids run after him and catch up and say, "You villain, don't run away from us." And Izuku doesn't know why, but gets the feeling to try to intervene. And because they shouldn't be beating up somebody just because they have a villainous quirk. And Izuku says, "What are you 4 doing?" They look at Izuku's physique, and Izuku is more buff than when he was back 5 months ago, and the 4 boys say, "We're just playing around." And Izuku says, "I'm not stupid. But I can see the fact you were beating him up for, I presume, having a villainous quirk. So, if you don't like villainous quirks, I don't think you would want to meet me." He basically uses his strength enhancement and uses his metal manipulation quirk at the same time, and says, "If I were you, I wouldn't mess with my purple-haired friend here." And the bullies, one of the bullies pees their pants from fear, and all of them book it. And the purple-haired kid says, "Why did you do that?" Naizuku says, "Simple. Well, I don't like bullies." And Shinso says, "You responded to me?" And Izuku says, "Yeah." "Oh, you must have a voice quirk if you're saying that." And Shinso says, "How did you know?" Izuku says, "Simple. Well, that's a response that someone with a voice quirk would use if they're not seen favorably, to my knowledge." And and Shinso says, "Wow. Well, anyway, thank you for helping me against those bullies." And Izuku says, "Sure, want to be friends?" Shinso says, "Sure, and my name's Shinso." And Izuku says, "My name's Izuku." And they shake hands, and that's the end of episode. Anyway, I know this is a bit longer than my last one, but these videos are kind of hard to do. But anyway, see you later. This is What If Deku Had All For One Part 3. When Izuku and Shinso shake on being friends, the screen pulls out and sees this is being seen by a TV. And the man seeing the TV, he's wearing a skull mask with a black suit with a white shirt, and with no tie. And the man with the skull mask says, "Well, Zuka, that's some deja vu." He takes off his skull mask and looks back, or what would be equivalent to looking back at it, because he don't have eyes anymore. And he says, "That's some deja vu." And says, I'm not going to interfere in his life. Because I already made that mistake once. They hate you. Family will hate you if you're overbearing. That's the lesson I learned from putting Yarachi in a safe place. Yes, I now understand the reason why he hated me. And wished he could understand why things I did back then were necessary. But I'm not going to make the same mistakes because I don't need to. One day, I can talk to my son with my eyes again. And back to the beach. Izuku and So start talking to each other, and Izuku asks like 300 questions on Shinso's quirk, and Shinso says, not just take my quirk and use it. And Izuku says, A, you probably know how your quirk works, so you wouldn't really want to respond to me. And second, it's easier to get the information from someone that's used the quirk for their entire lives. And also, so, I want to be friends. And Shinso looks down at the somewhat leanly jacked kid that is approximately 1 centimeter from being taller than Shinso himself, and says, okay, I presume you want to be a hero. Oh, he says this just somewhat randomly, and Izuku says, of course, I've always wanted to be a hero. Oh, and I've been training to go to UA. And Shinso says, with a quirk like that, why would you need training? And Izuku says, even the strongest people on the planet need training. All Might wasn't born to learn how to punch like bricks, or etc. from birth. Every quirk is a tool. You need to learn how to use that tool. Well, even if that tool is, for example, a multi-tool or a super sledgehammer, you still need to learn how to use it. And technique. Anyway, do you want to learn how to fight? And do exercises with me, Shinso? Sure. Midoriya, or and I call you Izuku, and Izuku says, sure, can I call you Itoshi? And he says, sure. And Izuku and Itoshi, for the next month, work with each other, and Izuku, who over this time has gotten to know Itoshi and vice versa, and honestly, some of their peaks of their day are being at the beach, each training with each other, or just talking to each other. Either about quirks, heroics, how people will treat them just because they have a villainous quirk. And Izuku says, yeah, about a week after my quirk was revealed to the class, nearly everyone's desks basically went out of my hand range. And my best friend Kachan called me a villain. But I saved him, though. But anyway, it does make sense, but hey, once quirkless, now a villain. Izuku says that, and some morbid humor. And Shinso says, I cannot believe for someone so bloody strong you used to be quirkless. And I'm not saying quirkless people are naturally weak or anything like that. It's just the fact that I'm surprised. And Izuku says, well, you shouldn't have slacked off in training then. And Shinso says, he sticks his tongue out at Izuku, and Izuku says, Anyway, I got a text from my mother saying that I could get a 5th quirk. And Shinso says, Is a 5th quirk? What is it? Hold on. Izuku looks at his phone and reads the text. From Mom. I got a notice saying that a person with a rubber body quirk from a hospital wants to donate their quirk to you. Would you want it? Izuku says, can I get more details? And the full details of the quirk are there, and rubber body basically has the body act like rubber, where basically your entire body acts like nearly any form of rubber, where electricity, nearly electric resistance, nearly full electricity resistance, nearly capable of stretching to half a mile. Yes, there is some downsides of, like, temperature resistance is poor. Is not that best, but it's still a good quirk. And Izuku says, not much information, but I'll go off of it. And Izuku says yes. And later that day, he goes to the hospital and sees this man that's on his deathbed give his hand and says, here you go, kid. And Izuku says, are you sure? I can give this back to you if you want it back. And the old man says, no, I'm gonna be dying in the next few minutes, the next few hours anyway. Better donate what I can now. So I tried to donate my organs and stuff like that. No one wants rubber organs. He chuckles and says, here, kid, take my quirk. And Izuku takes the old man's quirk, and the old man says, well, have a good career, kid. And Izuku leaves and starts to cry, because he prefers taking quirks from villains than taking them from the elderly or from people on their deathbeds, because at least you can morally feel good about de-arming villains, but just getting a quirk from somebody that's on their deathbed feels, in his heart, somewhat wrong, but in his head he's saying that he did that willingly. I'm not forcing them. And he writes down in his new journal of his own quirks called Rubber Body, and putting the attributes, and when he basically tests his new body with the quirk on and stretches out his lips, stretches out his head, stretches out his fingers, and etc., Izuku says, what's the... Oh, that. I can adapt to that. Izuku says, there's a decent training curve. He probably didn't really train in the quirk too much, because he did have a small inkling to heroics, but, well, and Izuku goes back home and says, hello, Mom. And Mom says, how was the visit to Odorako-san? It was sad. And not really that pleasant. And Inko says, I know. It's one of the ones that are harder to do for you, is it? Izuku says, yeah, it is. Because at least when I depower villains, it just makes some sense. And Inko says, at least you're allowing them to feel... I know this might feel a little bit wrong to say, or to hear, but Izuku, some people when they die, they want to at least influence the next generation. And by doing that, they have a hand in your future. In a way. And Izuku says, I'm going to go to sleep. And he goes to bed. And that is end of part 3 of Ulf. What if Deku had Ulf won? And hope you like it. Like this part. Anyway, see you later. Hello everybody, this is going to be What If Deku Had Ultra 1 Part 4. Here we go. Oh, there are 4 people at the table. All Might, Night-Eye, Gran Torino, and Nezu. And Nezu says, I brought you all here today because I think you should all know the fact that there is a new person that can give and take quirks. Night-Eye says, what is this individual's villain name? And how are we going to pursue them? And Nezu says, they're not a villain. And everyone else at the table, besides All Might, looks baffled. Because All Might somewhat heard of this, to his knowledge, but mostly is somewhat surprised. And Night-Eye says, How? And Gran Torino says, that's not possible. How are they even legally capable of using their quirk? Nezu says, simple. It's pretty simple when getting quirk license, since it's pretty easy if you do the right paperwork. Where the guardian / mother of the individual basically registered the kid's quirk. Second, Akind got the kid a license to use the quirk and has contacted law enforcement and just anyone that wants to get rid of their quirk. That basically this child, Izuku Midoriya, can take quirks and give quirks. So, Oh, I think you should know this. And also the fact that he has applied for the entrance exam in a few months. I believe, yes. He will be attempting to do the entrance exam in 4 months. Gran Torino says, "Are you going to allow him to participate?" Nezu says, "Yes. There's no reason that I could give that denies him capability of going into the hero exam, and also the fact that it would be beneficial to know where he is and what he is doing. And we also make sure we know his current ability, because of the fact that his quirk is pretty powerful. And I'm going to be putting him in with Aizawa. Well, and I'm going to be curious how that works. But anyway, besides that, it's also the fact that Toshinori, yes, you need to pick a successor. You've been leaning to Orange Mirio, yeah. Oh, but you've not made a decision. What is your decision? Everyone else besides All Might is looking at All Might. And All Might says, "I'll be going with Mirio Takada as my successor. Sir, but I will give him the option after the first year entrance exam. And if no one else gives me that spark, Mirio will be getting the quirk." But he looks at Night Eye and says, "Do not tell him, that is going to be in a few months." Night Eye says, "Shouldn't we do it right now so we can get him to know how to use the quirk as fast as humanly possible?" And All Might says, "Preferably we would have someone that's a first year instead of someone that is already going to be a pro and it's going to be suspicious for them to have a mysterious power out of nowhere." And also the fact that, well, it's kind of a little too late to do that when Mirio Takada is going to be unknown and someone that's going to be owned by people in the industry with a Paramus quirk, not a super strength. So, preferably, we'd want different options. But he will be my backup. He will be the only option we have for the time being. And besides that, we see a boy, and actually we see 2 boys on a beach fighting each other, where it's been 6.5 months in Izuku's training, and it's been 1.5 months since Izuku's met Shinso. And Shinso has been learning how to fight, and Izuku's been learning how to fight. Yes, they're both learning from a video they're watching from the internet, but they're getting somewhere. And Shinso says, "Oh my goodness, how do you not get tired?" Simple. Stamina. Shinso looks at him with the most deadpan expression and says, "No, Oh shit, Sherlock. What's that next? Are you gonna say All Might can punch? Or the sky is blue? Ooh. Ooh. And Izuku says, okay, I know this might sound insulting, but do you want a quirk? Shinso says, no. Oh. I'm getting in by my own power, not by something you give me. And I've been researching from old years how these robots work, because of the fact that it's mostly an open secret that it's robots. And also the fact that if you ask certain people that have failed the entrance exam, you could get the information pretty easily. Anyway, hey, Izuku. Good. How are you doing with that rubber quirk, Eric, that you got out a few weeks ago? Doing pretty well. Personally, it's kind of fun acting like a rubber band sometimes. And honestly, it very much works with my other quirks. Where if I use temperature manipulation to basically make it so I'm basically my main weakness with that quirk is negated. The only thing I need to worry about is how much I stretch. But honestly, I'm probably going to have a combining of like strong body, the metal manipulation, probably as a long distance attack, rubber body, adaptability, and temperature manipulation. Interesting. Interesting. Anyway, I'll see you later. See you later. Later. Anyway, that is the end of this video. Hello everybody, this is part 5 of What If Deku Had All For One. Here we go. Oh, on his way from home from the beach, Zuko reminisces on the first few days of Zuko having his new quirk. And the teacher says, hello everybody, guess what? Zuko Midoriya has a quirk now. And his quirk is called Giving and Takens, where basically he can give and take quirks. And everyone looks at Zuko and moves their table a little bit farther away from Izuku. And Bakugo says, were you hiding this quirk all along? And Izuku says, no, I wasn't. And Bakugo just stands there, looking at Izuku, and then just walks back to his seat and acts like nothing happened. And for the rest of that day, it was, it was isolation, but it wasn't the common beatings of back when Izuku was quirkless. Anyway, back to modern day, Izuku comes home and says, hello Mom, and his mother says, how was your day with Shinso at the beach? And Izuku says, well, it was nice. I actually earned and got basically more experience with my adaptability. And Inko says, good. I actually have 2 more quirks that could be decently useful. useful because it's more ranged than the ones that you have. And Izuku says, interesting. What are they? They're both somewhat sibling quirks, where basically the reason I can get both of them is because of the fact that a family wanted to know if they could have their family members still want to be basically in their will before they died. They wanted to have their body used for science and stuff like that, to have their body be worth something after death. And, well, all this fits the criteria of the will. Anyway, Izuku says, I'm going to be just saying this out loud. I'm just curious if I can even take quirks from the dead. Inko says, to my knowledge you can, because your father could, but your quirks could be different in that way. And basically when Izuku and Inko head to where the family that they're going to get the quirks from it is the MHA family, where many of them have weaker quirks. Well, what I mean by that is that not really any of them are pros. Those, and mostly are just in telemarketing. Anyway, when Izuku goes to the bodies of the deceased, he's to take the quirks. He feels a bit having some reservations of taking dead people's quirks, but they're not using them anymore. Or that's what his mother said. And when he felt his hands on those bodies, he felt 2 quirks. They were faint, like they were going to disappear, but they were still there, and Izuku took them, and he got 2 quirks. One is called Burning Gaze, where basically that when the quirk is activated, the individual that is hit by the quirk Arc basically feels like the room's gotten hotter and can get up to a degree of 193 degrees, to the point where it's actually having their body boil from the inside out. But it took the individual lots of focus, and well, it was kind of difficult to use. And the same thing with the other quirk, but the reverse, where basically it's freezing glare, where basically it can freeze anything looked at. And for people, it would give a shudder of coldness, is if seen, and could get as low as negative 75, or even colder. But those are the 2 quirks Izuku got from this and this. And when Izuku and Inko go home, Izuku says, "Thanks, Mom, for setting that up. I'm going to talk to Shinso online," and then head to bed. And after a little bit of training. And love you. And Izuku heads to his room and basically calls Shinso and says, "Guess what, Shinso?" And Shinso says, "Yeah? I got 2 more quirks." And Shinso says, "What are the 2 quirks?" "Burning and freezing glare. Or basically I can use something similar to a Eraserhead." Interesting. Any side effects? Well, basically both have similar side effects of of basically having dry eye and basically having the same problems anyone with an eye-based quirk would have. But besides that, they're not really too powerful, but honestly they seem pretty useful, and if I use them in tandem, then I can just upper or lower the temperature of what I'm looking at without really any problems. But besides that, I feel like it's a pretty good works all considered, because not many people want to give up their quirks, even people that are on their deathbed. So yeah. Anyway, Shinso, so how's your foster parents been? It's been good. But I just got adopted. I just got adopted halfway through our friendship, so. Oh, yeah. And Izuku, yes. How do you survive your exercises? Izuku says, they're not that bad. The ones I show you is only about 25% of what I normally do. Who nowadays? And Shinso says, you're insane. You're just utterly insane. And Shinso hangs up. And Izuku says, I don't understand why that's insane. And starts to squat and 100 per set of squats. And basically doing 100 push-ups per rep. Or, yeah. And basically, he says, now, let's do some analysis on these two quirks. He starts to use one in each eye and says, these quirks are pretty compatible, out of everything considered. Like, yeah, many of the other ones are pretty compatible as well. But these two are especially so. And it makes sense because of the fact they were siblings in life. So that makes sense. But, well, besides a dry eye, I can see the fact that it takes a bit of the cold from the body if you use the freezing glare, and it takes the heat from the body if you use the burning glare. Besides that, I don't see any major drawbacks. So, he closes the book on his new analysis notebook and says, time for me to sleep. And that is the end of the video. I know this video is a bit more rugged in the middle, but I hope you like it. Good everybody, and thank you for watching to this point.